Happy days are here again, Steeler fans, because if the unemployment ratio is any indication, the Steelers are about to go on a back-to-back Super Bowl championship run because the numbers haven't been this bad since they won back-to-back Super Bowls starting in 1978. Ugh. We'll talk about these unemployment numbers again on this version of Get Right with Lenny McAllister, starting right
now. Get Right with Lenny McAllister.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The way we help bring back America and we build the bridges and bring people together is by making sure we hold everybody accountable in a 360 fashion. So let me close with this. Yes, there is a change that we can believe in, but it will never come from a politician or a government program. We got to move away from the American Idol soundbite nature of politics and back to the American statesman of humble servant leadership that we used to see in politics. But it's time to reel in government. It is time to roll out the era of the new American citizen. If we can continue to get some common sense governing from both sides of the aisle, we can finally get Americans through the recession, not just Wall Street. We need people that can change the crisis that we're seeing, and that's why, as a proud Republican, I go through the jail ministry. I speak to the kids in the streets. So I'm never going to lay down being a Republican or being a conservative, just as much as I'll never lay down being a proud African American. I feel like a black public money.
Okay, this is going to be very, very interesting. The day after Bridgegate and the Christie press conference and everything else, and I want to see how the overall media deals with this. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the Friday edition, obviously, of Get Right with Lenny McAllister, where you and I will get a chance to vibe. You know the deal. Very simply, Twitter, LENNYMCALLISTER, Facebook, 2 pages, same guy, same name, same conversation for you and I to vibe on this. Now, look at, and yeah, I was being sarcastic, but I was also being very, very frustrated and expressing that frustration at the top of the podcast. Look at these unemployment numbers. I know, and yeah, I would like to talk about Morris Alexander. I know America would still like to talk about Bridgegate and Chris Christie. I know people still want to blast Obamacare or blast the Republicans about the unemployment extensions, even though at least the unemployment extensions or the proposed extensions of the benefits, not something wigging off of somebody's hair, literally wigging off of somebody's hair, extensions like money, not hair. Come on now. I know it's the weekend, but still. At least the unemployment extension would be something that could apply to what I'm talking about with this unemployment rate. Everything else doesn't. Everything else, to me, is a distraction. This is what frustrates me to no end with President Obama. No, I do not hate President Obama. I told you all repeatedly. Ever since my days of being his evil twin Republican cousin on this other side of the street in Hyde Park, I have not had hatred for this president, nor will I have hatred for this president. But these are the types of things that annoy the bejeebers out of me. You cannot, yeah, I did say bejeebers. You cannot, and I meant it too, you cannot sit there and go out and talk about income inequality and rail against Republicans and talk about raising the minimum wage when you have now had a full presidential term and a year. And a year. So you're into your second term a full year. And you haven't done what you need to do to get Americans back to work. It's been Obamacare. It's been the Republicans are horrible and wretched. It's been suing the state of Louisiana over school choice. It's been the D.C. voucher program. It's been the stimulus package that did not keep unemployment under 7%. It's been cash for clunkers. It's been all kind of stuff except getting working class Americans back to work. Look at the numbers. 6.7% unemployment rate. Yes, you want to go celebrate that. Have fun with that, because I have some other numbers to dampen your mood. Por ejemplo, if you look at how many people jumped out of the workforce, the participation rate is at 62.8%, which is the lowest rate since, like I said, 1978, when Franco Harris was still running for 1,000 yards a year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. When Terry Bradshaw, yeah, the dude on the Nutrisystem commercials with Julianne Barberie, the dude off of NFL on Fox, that dude, the bald dude wearing the red pants and the blue suit, when that dude was actually in shape and throwing touchdown passes. Remember the guy that ran for governor of the state of Pennsylvania? When that guy could still run a 4.5 40 and had a 40-inch vertical jump. Do you see where I'm taking you with this? This is what gets me particularly annoyed with all the rhetoric that comes out of Washington. And yes, I do pin this on President Obama. Don't tell me the Democrats had a jobs bill. Because if they had that much of a jobs bill, if they had that big of a jobs bill, if this was that important to the Democrats, guess what would have transpired? I'll tell you how the last 4 years would have turned out. Number one, there would have been no huge Obamacare ACA plan. There would have been continued steps to get people back to work. There would have been steps to help people when it came to accessibility to health care. There probably would not have been a huge Tea Party movement in 2010 because the Democrats and President Obama would not have pissed off America like they did in 2009 in the spring of 2010. The Democrats would have probably kept control of the House of Representatives, which I wouldn't have liked, and Republicans wouldn't have liked. And they probably would have held on to the Senate, which I wouldn't have liked, and the Republicans wouldn't have liked. And President Obama might have won re-election in 2012, which I wouldn't have liked, and Republicans wouldn't have liked. But if they had been focused on jobs, more people would have been back to work by now. More jobs would have been created in America by now. And I would be able to tolerate President Obama being in office. Not that I can do anything about it, per se. I mean, you can one man, one vote, but you get my point. You can deal with him being in office. You could sit there and say to yourself, okay, that's fine. You know, I don't really think he's the best president we could have. I really don't want Nancy Pelosi being Speaker of the House still. You know, Harry Reid being the leader in the Senate is annoying. They probably still would not have passed a budget. I get all that. But if people would have been back to work at a higher clip, then I could deal with that. 74,000 jobs added in December? Now, I just got, and if you want to say I'm just an Obama hater, go check LennyMcAllister.com. Go see what I said in December when the numbers came out and there were 203,000 jobs added, when the participation rate actually went up in November, when 203,000 jobs were added to the economy, when the unemployment rate came down. See what I said. Go see what I said on Al Jazeera that same tail end of December. If this continues, President Obama gets credit for it. Good stuff. Look, I'm not going to root against this president so fervently that I want people to suffer and struggle. That's just stupid and mean and cruel. And yes, I know there are some people that exist in politics that will root for those sorts of things. I am not one of them. That's all I'm saying. And I am willing to give credit where credit is due. I'd rather have an opponent, not an enemy. I'd rather have an opponent, a political opponent that I do not like and I disagree with, but I can give credit to because people are doing better as a result of his or her leadership. I'd rather have that and argue on the merits that it could be better, argue on the merits that there are better ways of doing things, than sit here and root for people to struggle and suffer and cringe and lose hope. That's me. And let's put that out there right now. Agree, disagree, you know where to find me on Facebook, you know where to find me on Twitter. My point, though, is this. With all that said, 74,000 jobs added in December. So basically, you take the 203,000 from November, the 74,000 jobs would help Pennsylvania. There were 86,000 people in Pennsylvania that lost their unemployment benefits December 28th. Those 74,000 jobs would help those individuals in one state. One state, that's it. You got 49 other states that would sit there and see no job growth if you took all 74,000 jobs that were added in December and applied them to the people that lost their unemployment benefits in just my native state of Pennsylvania. That is what we're looking at. And if you want to sit there and focus on Christie and Bridgegate, you want to focus on Obamacare, you want to focus on income inequality and raising the minimum wage, and President Obama is rallying the troops and all this other kind of garbage, speech when the main thing that you need to get America back on track from a geopolitical, and I do say geopolitical, because if you don't have your geoeconomic footing straight, you can't do diddly squat geopolitically. You know what you end up getting? You end up getting Dennis Rodman in North Korea going, happy birthday to you. That's the kind of mockery you get. It just continues to increase. Because people know we're struggling. Now, I'm not saying that Rodman went over there because the United States doesn't have a good economy. What I'm saying is people don't respect the United States as much because the United States is having a very poor time getting our foot economically. They blame us for the worldwide recession. We can't get ourselves back on track, and then we will try our best to spin these numbers. 74,000 jobs, which would help the state of Pennsylvania, which would help the unemployed in Florida. I think 74,000, if you applied it to Nevada, still doesn't take care of all their unemployed, doesn't take care of all the long-term unemployed that lost their benefits in the state of Pennsylvania. There are other states like that. Illinois, I believe, is like that as well. So, I mean, we could sit here and do that. But even if you combine 203 from November, 74 from December, add them together, divide by 2, you're not even talking about what, 136, 137, 138,000 jobs added on average between the 2 months? That's still putrid. That's not good. It's not good. 140,000 jobs added is not what we need. We got to at least be over 200,000 a month on average for a while to get people back to work at the pre-recession clips. Please don't come to me and tell me about George W. Bush. Don't come to me and tell me about the Republicans, because again, I will take you back to the fact that the Democrats controlled Congress in 2007, 2008. I will take you back to the economic policies that President Clinton put into place that helped lead to some of the fiasco that you saw with AIG and some of the other institutions that took horrible risks with capital and caused the recession. Don't take me back to AIG getting government money and then giving people that caused the recession bonuses and then having the Obama administration try to tax that 100%. You want to talk about amateur hour? I know people want to talk about Bridgegate. I know people want to talk about Ted Cruz and, his impact and the Rand Paul and unemployment extension benefits and the argument against extending it. We could talk about that. But if you want to talk about that amateur hour, you got to look at these numbers and talk about this amateur hour. No, the president is not running a centralized economy, even though he would like to think that he is. I get that. But the president does have significant, and that's an understatement, influence over how this economy will bounce back. Obamacare has impacted that. His regulations have impacted that. His leadership style has impacted that. His divisiveness as a partisan president has impacted that. You cannot deny that, whether you love him or hate him. That's the truth. And you could sit there and say, well, Len, you're just saying this because you're a Republican. No, I'm saying this because I'm looking at the numbers today. That's why I'm saying it. 74,000 jobs barely helps one state. We got 50 of them, or according to President Obama, 57. I'm just kidding. It wasn't President Obama that said that. It was Senator Obama that said that. My point is, you look at these numbers. This is not indicative of people having any type of hope that this is going to turn around anytime soon. Or, and here's the dangerous part. Or that it's going to turn around at all. That's where you should get darn right nervous if you're an American. If you're an American that belongs to the baby boomer generation, Generation X, or the millennial generation. That should scare you. If you're in the greatest generation, you're cooling out, you're relaxing, you're looking and saying, I didn't fight for this. I didn't go over there and, pick your slur that they used to call the Germans or the Japanese or the Italians. You know the deal. They'll pick a slur that they used to say in the military. Not that they're bigots, but they called us Yanks and other kind of crazy names, and we called them crazy names. But you could see it. You could see them sitting on the porch, 90 years old, smoking a cigar saying, I ain't fight them for this. This ain't America. And they'd be right. But if you're not part of that generation, if you're not sitting there reflecting upon what you invested into America to make America the greatest nation in the world throughout the 20th century, you're looking at the 21st century and you're asking yourself, how many jobs will I have between now and the age of 70? By the way, you're not retiring at 63 or 65. If you think you are, think again. You're not. Oh, by the way, if you think you're retiring at 75, we got a job for you at Home Depot just waiting for you. Because that's where this economy is going. People will not be retiring unless if you're clocking right now. And there's not that many people that are clocking the bucks right now, ladies and gentlemen. There just isn't. That should scare you more than the Obamacare stuff, the regulatory stuff, the Republicans are evil and don't want to extend unemployment. Even at least that's tied to it a little bit. Yeah, I argued that too in December. They should have extended it. I've said it in January. They should have added it to the budget. $6.4 billion? Heck, even when I started hearing initial numbers saying $20 billion. Find it. But when it's $6.4 billion, even if you want to extend it for 30 days, 33% of $6 billion? A third of that? Find it. But here's my thing. I'm not getting caught up in that. I'm not getting caught up in Bridgegate. Not today. Not today. Yeah, I'm focusing on Marissa Alexander, and we'll I'm sure, get some news about that coming out this morning from Florida. And that matters. But I'm not focusing on that today, because when I look these numbers, and I know what it means, when I once again, and again, first African-American president, still waiting for a black president. When you look and see that the white to black unemployment rate still is at that stubborn 1-to-2 ratio or black to white 2-to-1 ratio, I have problems with that. 12.9% unemployment coming down for African-Americans because people are jumping out of the workforce is a very bad thing. Hearing about 1 out of 5 American men of working age underemployed or unemployed is a very bad thing. Hearing that if the employment ratios were at a standard level, even during the course of this recession, before they hit historic lows, that the unemployment rate would still be 7.9%. When we're sitting there trying to make it seem as though 7.9% on a normal curve or 6.7% on this very jaded curve is okay, you really want to come and tell me that we're going in the right direction? And anybody that wants to spin this and tell me, A, President Obama's doing the right things. Hey, look at all the jobs we added. We're still about 3 to 4 million jobs in the hole since 2008. So don't come and tell me that a little cup of water is going to quench the thirst of a line full of people, because they can't share that glass. There's a swallow in the water. Somebody's going to drink it. Everybody else is still going to be thirsty. And by the way, because there are no jobs, they'll be hungry and they might be homeless. You know where to find me, Twitter, Facebook. But I am angry about this. And I should be angry about this, because this was supposed to be the focus the moment this president came into office. And to me, this is a lack of leadership, because he focused on being historic when it came to putting his name in the record books in regards to, I passed Obamacare, I did this, I did that, I. Once a president starts thinking about in fact, better still, once any politician gets so infatuated with I and our team and not our nation, everybody loses except the elite ruling political class. And if you think we don't have classism in America, if you think that we're not looking more and more like the models of government and society that we hate, just look around you. There's at least 2 Americas that exist: poor and well-to-do and rich. That's it. There's no middle class for the most part anymore. There just isn't. There are people that own 2 and 3 cars, and there are people that haven't owned a car in 5 years. There are people that are struggling because they have to give up their Hawaiian vacation, and there are people that can barely get on the bus and get to work. There are people that think that prosperity is raising the minimum wage. They think that the best that they can do is a minimum wage. And there are people that get bonuses for people's year-long minimum wage, in the course of a month or for one project. So, and that's just economically. That's just socioeconomically. That's just based on who makes what, who works where. We won't even go into education. We won't even go into race. We won't even go into gender. We won't even go into ageism. Because there are a lot of people that are in urban America that are older that are screwed. Screwed. Because they don't either have the younger people to take care of them, to help them out like they used to have just 25 years ago. They can't get that job with dignity that allows them to retire. They can't really count on the government being solvent. You even have government employees that were worried about daggone furloughs and layoffs and all this, that, and the other with the government shutdown just a couple months ago. Things are in chaos. The president was not supposed to focus on stamping his name on the record books, on the books of history, saying, I did something that Teddy Roosevelt couldn't do. I did something that Hillary couldn't do. I did something that progressive Republicans and Democrats alike couldn't do. That wasn't supposed to be the focus. The numbers that came out today were supposed to be the focus. That's what has me angry. That's what has me frustrated. And that needs to change. When you get to the polls in 2014, when you're voting for your senators, your congressmen, and as you're looking towards the 2016 election, you better remember days like today. Great rhetoric, horrible results. Unless if you want to expand the soup kitchens and you want the nanny state of America, you want more people living on the government dole, you want more people falling out of the workforce, you want that to continue, keep your eyes shut. Keep ignoring this and keep watching America crumble. What do you think? That's where I'm on with these unemployment numbers today. You know where to find me on Twitter. You know where to find me on Facebook. I promise you I'll feel better by the time the weekend comes. In the meanwhile, enjoy it, and let's keep on working, folks. I love you. I'll talk to you later on. TCNGB. Peace.